Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Rochelle from Rochelle.Handmade.Designs, and in this video we are actually sewing that third top as part of the top series part 3 Summers Out Arms Out edition. Alright, so look, we are actually sewing Simplicity 1366. It's this pattern right here. The view that I am doing is view C on the pattern, which is the spaghetti strap. Now I have sewn this a total of 3 times. This will be my 4th time sewing it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into the tutorial. But before I get started, go ahead and hit the like button and the subscribe button, and also turn on the notification bell so you are notified every time I upload a new video as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into this tutorial. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the next sew along, which is for this spaghetti strap right here. The pattern that I am using for this spaghetti strap is Simplicity 1366. I will be doing view C. So the first thing that you need is the pattern itself, which once again is 1366. I'll be doing view C on this pattern. You'll also need the pattern instructions if you want to follow along with the pattern instructions. You will need a pair of scissors, and this is just to cut fabric. I have my clippers, which I use at the sewing machine. I have 2 rotary cutters, one for paper, one for fabric. You never mix the 2 there. And then I have a seam ripper, just in case I make a mistake and need to rip out the seams. And then you need some pens. That's the only thing that you will need outside of course, your coordinating thread. Now that's all the things that you will need in order to construct the spaghetti strap top. So let's go ahead and get right on into the pattern pieces as well as the instruction. Okay, so for this spaghetti strap top, you only need 3 pieces, which is 6, 7, and 8 for view C, which is the spaghetti strap top. Now the pieces that you will need is pattern piece number 6, the front and back, pattern piece number 7, the shoulder strap, and pattern piece number 8, the front and back facing. So I'm going to show you those pieces now. Now, one thing that I want to mention is on the top, all pieces will be with, right side up. So there's nothing that you need to turn and face down on the fabric itself and cut around. So the pattern pieces, the first pattern piece that you will need is pattern piece number 6. So on this top, I am just using scraps that I have from my stash, which is Encarve print, which is this nice, lovely yellow and blue Encarve print that I have left over from a skirt I made. So I'm just making a top with it. So it's pattern piece number 6, which is the front and back, and you need to cut 2. The next pattern piece is pattern piece number 7, which is your shoulder strap. You need to cut this at an angle. Basically, when you cut this, make sure that the direction of your fabric right here is facing across. Do not turn it just, like you're just going to cut this way. Make sure your grain line is matching up just like that. And that's pattern piece number 7. You need to cut 2. And the last pattern piece you will need is pattern piece number 8, which is your front and back facing. And you're going to cut 2 and interface 2 as well. Make sure you transfer all your notches and your dots. And that's all the pattern pieces you will need. So let's go ahead and get right on into the tutorial and the sewing. But I went ahead and sewn my side seams using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, back stitch at the beginning and the end. And then I went ahead and finished off my seam allowance with my serger. Now what I'm going to do is turn it right side out. And the next thing you're going to do is go ahead and put your top over to the side and grab your straps, which is pattern piece number 7. Now I have already kind of done this, but I'm just going to show you exactly what to do. What you're going to do is with right sides together, you can pin if you want, but you really don't need to. You're going to go to the sewing machine and you're going to stitch using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on both straps. Once you have sewn 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, you're going to go ahead and trim your seams down just like so. And then turn them right side out and give them a press. Give them a good press at that. So I'm just going to trim it down, both of them. I'll do that one in just a second. Now what I like to do when I'm creating straps is I like to pull a little of the thread out and then put my needle down at 3/8. It's gonna look like this. So I pull some enough thread out to be able to pull it to make a tube. I put my needle down, and then with my presser foot still up, I fold the fabric over, put my presser foot down, and then sew in 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. It gives me enough to where I could just pull it through, just like so. And I'm just gonna pull it through. And just take your end and kind of push it through, and you will see that it created a tubing to where it is now right side out. So once you see the other end, just pull the rest of it through, and voila, you have a strap. And then you just kind of cut the ends off right here where you had that thread, and then give it a good press. You're going to do that to both of your straps. So I'm just going to clean both of my straps up quickly, and I'll give both of my straps a good press in just a moment. You're going to do that to the other strap as well. Once you do that and give it a good press, what you're going to do, you should have 2 dots. What you're going to do is place, now I'm going to place mine this way, where my you see where the line is for when you press it. I'm going to press mine in just a second, but I want mine flipped up this way. The reason why is because this is going to be the front of my garment. So what I'm going to do is take a marking tool, which is my chalk right here, and I'm going to write an F right here for the front, and then I'm going to write a B for the back. And this just distinguishes which side I want as the front and which side I want as the back. Now, really, it doesn't matter until you put your label in there, because, you know, the pattern piece is for both front and back. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is simply because when I put my straps where that dot is, when I fold it, you see how when I fold it, you do not see that under edge right here. So when I fold it, it gives me a nice good finish, right? Now, if I was to place it on this side, this way, right? When I fold it over, you're going to see that line right here where you stitched it together. So therefore, that's why I'm going to pin this direction. And you want to match that up to the very top of your garment, okay? So you want to make sure that you are aligning it like this, like so, and you're going to pin. Now I'm going to press my seams, but I'm just showing you what you're going to do, and you're going to do the other side the exact same way. Now, what you want to do is make sure, so pin it, I would pin my like this, and then flip it over. Am I going to see that line? Yes or no? And then that will determine which way you need to pin your strap. So pin your strap to both front at the dot on both sides, matching up the raw edges as well. So go ahead and pin there now. Once you pin, you're going to just baste them across. Now I'm going to baste at a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance just to baste those in place. So go ahead and baste those in place now. All right, so now that I went ahead and attached my straps right here and basted them across, so the next thing you're gonna do is go ahead and move the top out the way for just 1 second. You're gonna need it in just a minute. Grab pattern piece number 8, which is your front and back facing. And then what you wanna do is with right sides together, you're going to pin the side seams. So that's the seam right here. Make sure you match up your notches, pin at your notches, and using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, what you're going to do is back stitch at the beginning and at the end, and also sew the side seams together and press them open. Once you do that, you're going to finish off the bottom edge of your facing. You can either use your serger, you could turn in a 1/4 of an inch, press to that line, and then create that narrow hem like that. You can do it however you want. I'm just gonna use my serger and serge the bottom portion of my hem. That's what I'm gonna do, so go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have went ahead and sewn my side seams together on both sides, and then I went ahead and serge the bottom edge of my front and back facing. So what you're going to do is go ahead and grab your top, and you're gonna turn your top wrong side out. So I'm gonna turn this wrong side out, and make sure you keep your facing right side out. And what you're going to do is go ahead and pin your facing to your top. Now, I'm gonna do mine the opposite and just keep mine right side out, my top. So I'm just gonna put that back in because it may be easier for you guys to see it with right side. Now, this is the right side of my fabric facing up. And what I'm going to do is just turn my facing wrong side out and then pin. It will probably be easier that way for you guys to see it. So what I'm gonna do is start at the side seams with right sides together. Now, if you did what I did and serged your seams together, make sure your seams are facing the back portion of your garment. So you have to determine which one is the front and the back. Now for me, this shows the front of mine because I marked an F right here. That means that the back is that way. So since this is the front, I need to make sure that this seam goes towards the back, which is this way. And I'm going to pin that in place. I'm gonna go to the other seam, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the other side seam. Because this is the front, I need to make sure that this seam is facing the back going this direction. And then I'm going to pin the facing to that side seam as well. Then I'm just gonna pin there. And then I'm going to pin all the way around, making sure that I match up any notches and any dots. So here's a notch there, so I wanna match up that notch right there. And then you have one on the other side, so make sure you match up the other notch as well. There's one right here. So you're going to match up the other notch as well on this side. And then you have two in the back. So you want to do the two in the back as well. And then pin all the way around your... All right, so now that you have the back pinned, so what I did not pin my front for a reason, and the reason why is simply because you want to make sure your straps is inside your shirt, or basically you want that to be laying flat and not the wrong way. So you're going to make sure that you pin your facing over your straps on the front, and then make sure that your dots are matching up, and you're going to pin on both sides. All right, and then you're gonna pin across your front neck edge as well as your side seam. So go ahead and pin that now, making sure you keep your straps free and do not pin your straps to your side seams. So go ahead and pin now. All right, so now that I have my straps free and I have my facing pinned onto my top, I'm gonna start at the side seam using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to backstitch at the beginning, so all the way up to the dot, leaving about 3/4 of an inch undone. So I'm just going to sew, come around, sew, stop about right there, backstitch, clip my threads, and then come over to this side, backstitch, clip my threads, and go all the way around. Now the front portion, I am not going to make a huge gap there because I want to go ahead, these are already basted, so on the front, I'm just going to sew all the way around using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, pivoting at the corner, and then come all the way around. Now for the back portion, where you get to the back, the dots, you're going to leave 3/4 of an inch between your end, where that peak is, and the next one. So you're going to sew all the way around, stop about right here, back stitch, clip your threads, and then come over on this side, back stitch, clip your thread, and sew all the way to where you started at. Now, the reason why you're doing that is simply because you will need to attach your straps to the back. And if you close it up now or you don't leave enough room, you will not be able to attach your straps. So once you do that, you're going to come back and attach your straps and try it on. So once again, what you're going to do is go ahead using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to start at the side seam, go all the way around the front, underneath the underarm. When you get to the back, you're going to sew, stop near the dot, do not pass it. So you're going to sew 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, stop basically about 3/4 of the way between the end and 3/4, about 3/4 of the way in. You want to stop, back stitch, and then start on this side, come all the way around. When you get to the second dot, you're going to back stitch, clip your thread, and then start on this side and come all the way back to the beginning. Go ahead and do that now. Okay, so now that I went ahead and attached my facing to my top with right sides together and sewn at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm going to go ahead and trim my facing down. So now this is the front, this is the back portion of it. I'm going to show you the front. I'm going to trim the front first and then trim the back. Now on the front, you should have went ahead and closed out the entire front, not leaving any type of peaks or anything. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and trim it down. I'm trimming my facing down to about 3/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around. So go ahead and do that now. All right, so one thing that I want to mention about why you're trimming your seam allowance down, when you get to the back, like I am at the back right now trimming, you do not want to trim this area that is not stitched. If you do, you're not going to have the correct seam allowance in order to attach your straps. So when you come around the side seam and cut, because this is not attached, I am not going to trim this area yet. So I'm going to skip over that area, kind of come at an angle, and then trim it off right through here, and then trim off the back portion. So I'm trimming the back portion down now. And then once again, because I'm right next to this dot that is not stitched, I'm just going to cut that off and then start at the other portion and go ahead and finish off trimming my seam allowance down. I'm going to get all these loose threads while I'm at it. And then I'm going to start about right here and then trim it down. All right, so now at the very front, now that I'm back at the front, now that I have trimmed my seam allowance down and I'm back at the front, what I'm going to do is clip into my corners. So I'm going to clip into my corners on both of my front seams. So that's where the straps are. So I'm going to do the other side the same way, but you do not want to clip your stitching, okay? And then what you're going to do is using your point turner, you want to make sure you poke that corner out right here. You should have a finished strap in the front. You should have finished straps in the front. So just poke that other corner where your strap is out. And you're going to give it a good press. Now you're going to press your seams up towards your facing. And the reason why you're going to do that is because you're going to understitch. Understitch is done at about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance to make sure that your facing does not roll. So what you're going to do is go to your sewing machine, press your seam allowance up towards the facing, and then on the right side, you're going to stitch about 1/4 of an inch away from the seam allowance on the facing. So you're stitching on this portion to catch in that pressed edge. So go ahead and do that now. Okay, so now that I have my facing understitched, what you're going to do is go to the your ironing station, and what you want to do is go ahead and press your facing to the inside. So make sure you poke out any of your corners, and the back portion where there's like a gap, hole, whatever you want to call it. You want to make sure that you have that kind of poked out, and you want to press all the way around, pressing your facing to the inside. Once you do that, now do not do this yet because you want to make sure that your straps is where you want it to be. So do not attach your facing to the side seams yet, okay? So the only thing you want to do is go ahead to your sewing machine, well, your pressing area, and press your facing to the inside of your garment. So go ahead and do that now. Okay, so now that I have my facing pressed to the inside, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and make sure that you attach that other strap to the back. So what you want to do is take your straps, and you want to place it over the right side and have it come through the back side like so. So you want to make sure that you get the end portion of that strap. So I'm just going to push it through, as you can see right here. And that's why I say it's best if you leave enough room. Have something to push it through. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and push it through. Now I'm going to check to make sure that it's not twisted. When my facing is to the inside, it's not twisted or anything. So make sure you check several times to make sure that your straps are not twisted. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and pin my straps right here at that dot. I'm going to pin. Then I'm going to go to the mirror or bathroom, whatever, and try your top on to make sure that it fits. Adjust how you need to while you're trying it on. Once you have a comfortable fit that you like, you're going to go ahead and stitch this portion right here closed. So you're going to stitch about 3/8 of an inch. You should be stitching at 5/8 of an inch if you still have this little peak. So you're just going to continue the stitch all the way up to the dot and then come across. So I'm going to stitch all the way over and then pivot and then come down to close up this area. And then I will trim my seams and clip into my corners. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So you go ahead and do that as well. Okay, so now that I went ahead and attached the back straps to the back, I went ahead and gave my facing a really good press. After I pressed, I added in the label to signify the back of my top. And then after I did that, I made sure that I pressed my side seams towards the back on both sides. And then after I did that, I made sure to, right at the seams, I made sure to stitch to where my facing is not flopping around while I'm wearing it. So that's what I did. So you can see the stitching right here where I tacked it down at the side seams. Now, the only thing that's left for you to do is the hem. You're going to, you could do it two ways. You could do it like I'm doing it, and I'm just going to serge the bottom using my serger and then press up 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and then stitch my hem in place. Or what you can do is a double fold where you create a basting stitch 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. You press to that line and then press in again and then sew on the right side to stitch your hem in place. That's completely up to you. It's a personal preference. Once you do that, you are all done with your top. This top shouldn't take you no more than about an hour, hour and a half max. It's just 3 pieces and you're good to go. So I hope you did enjoy this tutorial. And that's all that I have for this tutorial. Simplicity 1366. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Now you have a new fresh spaghetti strap. I'm utilizing Simplicity 1366. I'm just gonna make it in so many different colors so I can pair with different skirts, different trousers that I would like in my closet. It is a great pattern that you can use. And that's all for the tutorial. So like, comment, and subscribe, and also turn on the notification bell so you are notified every time I upload a new video. Until next time, bye!